everybody, it's Victoria Marie. I'm back with another process video. I want to share with you something that has a layout that has been on my mind for several weeks now, leading up into my anniversary. My spouse and I are going to be celebrating 7 years of marriage on the 20th of this month. This is September. And this particular anniversary is all the anniversaries are important and special, but this one has a little bit of a different meaning for us, given all the changes that we've gone through over the past year. So the title of this layout is We Almost Didn't Make It. And for those of you who watched my YouTube videos early, or I guess I started filming late last year, 2014, I shared with you that my spouse came out as transgendered last summer. And so my spouse is making a transition from male to female. Over the past year, it's been a little bit over a year, we have been through a lot. We have certainly walked through the fire together. And at some point during that year, particularly in the beginning, we questioned whether or not we were going to remain together. We have our tiny little family, the three of us, including our little girl. There were so many emotions, so many concerns, a whole lot of fear. But at the end of it, we decided that we were going to stay together. I do remember very vividly the months where we were talking about divorcing and what that would look like. You know, would she go stay in one apartment? Would we stay together but just be roommates? Would we live in the same area? What would visitation look like with our little girl? And we found that at the end of all those conversations, we felt worse because we couldn't reconcile in our mind not being together. Everything else in our marriage was fine. We're by far not the perfect couple, but we certainly have gone through a lot together over the years. But this was the first thing that rocked the foundation of our marriage. And it was very profound. In the beginning of all this, I could not find the words to describe how I felt. There's parts of me that said, hey, screw the world. This is my family. This is who we are. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to continue loving my spouse for who she is, and we're going to move on. And then there was parts of me that said, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? How is this going to work? What about our kid? What about our marriage? What I've learned over the year is that there are so many people who have supported us and so many people who have affirmed us as a married couple. We both have exhibited a lot of grace towards each other, a lot of empathy, giving each other space to mourn, to be upset, to be curious, to be excited about all these changes. But most of all, we didn't want anything to separate us. And so this picture sort of symbolizes us holding on to each other. I took this picture the other day of us holding hands. And we just happened to be talking about what we wanted to do for our anniversary to celebrate it. And Bree reached over and grabbed my hand and told me how much she loves me and how much I love her. And despite everything that we've been through over the past 7 years, we're still holding on to each other. And this is by far the hardest thing that I've ever been through in my entire life. Need a minute to collect myself there. So here we go. The Calvins holding on to each other, going down this path, this journey together as stronger than ever. And we continue to learn more and more and more about each other with each passing year. But I am glad to say that I'm very proud we hung in there, because I could not imagine my life without my best friend. And so that's what I'm going to talk about in this layout. So I'm going to speed things up and show you all the things I'm going to be using for this layout. And so yeah, here we go. All right, so to start, I trimmed my photo down to a little bit bigger than 4x4, I guess. I don't know. Then I took an 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock and gray cardstock. I ran that through my silhouette to do the title, We Almost Didn't Make It. And I don't know what font that is. I guess I should have made note of that. So I'm showing you all the other elements that I'm using as well, and I'll kind of walk you through those as I'm using them. So I take a frame, and this is from the Maggie Holmes, oh gee, what collection was this? It just says Maggie Holmes on the packaging, by Crate Paper, and there's about, oh, maybe 20 frames in this pack, and I love frames. I have like a whole collection of them that I probably should use up. And they're all in these really beautiful colors, sort of this wood grain and turquoise, off-white, gold, just stunning, stunning colors. So I wanted that title to be really prominent on the page, and overall this layout is going to be very simple. I didn't want to take away from the main point of the page because it's a very poignant story, and I will do some journaling. I didn't do the journaling on camera because I'm going to create a 6x12 layout to accompany that with the journaling on it, and the journaling is a little bit private than what I wanted to share on a process video, so I will do that later. So I went ahead and mounted that white paper down. I trimmed it at the bottom because I want a little bit of the gray to show on the top, and then I added the middle spaces, the middle pieces to the negative space in the letters on the title. Now this frame is a black and white frame, and I've used it for another layout, so I had that little piece there, and I thought it would be cool to put that on the other side of the title. I'm going to eventually take that off. Then I have this little bitty frame there at the bottom that I will keep, and I'm thinking I'm going to place it towards the bottom of that layout, which I will, and I'll fuss with that placement here in a minute. And then, let's see, those really thick chipboard pieces, the circle scallop looking piece and then the flower, those come from the Maggie Holmes open book collection, which is so pretty. I love these chipboard pieces. They're really, really, really thick. And I'm putting a bit of the adhesive squares at the bottom so they'll stand out. You don't really need them much unless you're layering, or at least the foam squares, unless you're layering those pieces, which I did. And it had enough height, but I needed to add a little bit there on the end so it'll stand up and not fall on the page. Now that little tiny frame, I'm going to end up moving down a little bit down towards the page here in a second, or maybe a little bit later in the process video. I thought I would move it up to kind of fill in some space, but then later I decided I just really didn't need that. So I'm using a 6x6 paper pad from the On Trend collection. And it's so pretty by my mind's eye. And I wanted to add some strips of paper there at the top, just to add a little bit of interest. And again, just trying to keep this as simple as possible, wanting to keep the focus on the story and the photo versus doing a whole lot of embellishing. I'm deciding how I want those placed, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere those down there at the top. And I really like how that gives a really relaxed and layered look at the top of the page. I'm all about relaxed scrapbook pages. At least I try to be. I have to be a little bit linear to meet that sensibility about myself, but then I don't like things just too linear where it looks planned. I kind of like my pages to look like, oh, I just woke up one morning and everything just laid perfectly on the page. Okay, so I added some feathers there at the top, which I'm going to take away. Those are also from that On Trend collection. And I'm telling you, these chipboard stickers are so thick. I love them. Okay, so I get this arrow, and I needed something there at the bottom to kind of finish out that cluster. And these are adhesive back, but again, I'm adding a foam square to make sure that I get the height nice and even. And I'm using these die cut pieces, or I'm going to look through them from Maggie Holmes by Crate Paper. And in this particular pack, you get about 81 pieces of ephemera, which is really nice. And I got all these things from Tuesday morning, believe it or not. Okay, so what am I doing here? Oh yeah, so I find a gold label, and I just want to use that to add a bit more gold to the page because the white strip of paper that I use at the top has gold dots on it, and I wanted to bring a little bit of gold throughout the page, and so I cut that label to put at the top of the photo and then there at the bottom of the page. Now I'm adding an enamel heart, and those little enamel pieces I believe are by Fancy Pants. And then I got this pack of gold puffy stickers. They're by Crate Paper, the Craft Market collection. And I wanted to add just a little bit more embellishing, so I thought I would put those arrows on there to add a bit more direction. to the photo. And I think I end up using one of those arrows, and it's going to go below that frame. And then, of course, I've moved that little frame down a bit. Then I've got those triangle pieces. They're there at the top. And at this point, I'm thinking, oh, this layout still doesn't look the way that I want to. And as soon as I took off that little piece of that black and white frame, it all came together. It all made sense at that point. Sometimes it's just the smallest detail that makes all the difference. I don't like spending hours pining over a layout. I just like to get them done, but I want them to look good too. I want them to make sense. And I was still trying to keep with the sort of the minimalist look of this layout, which I absolutely love. It's very clean. I didn't want a whole bunch of stuff on there. Okay. At the top, I think I failed to mention this, that chipboard piece at the top says recorded. And I thought at first I was going to put journaling directly on this page, but I decided since I had so much to say, I'm just going to do my journaling on a separate piece that will accompany, a separate layout that will accompany this one. Now I'm going to add some Heidi Swap Color Shine in gold. So some Heidi Shine to bring a little bit of glamour to the page. And I think that's going to be it. So I'm going to slow things down a bit so you can look at the page. This was a hard layout to do, not so much in the design and the construction of it, but just really sitting down and being able to tell this story. And of course, sharing the story with you. I will share more on my blog, so make sure that you check that out. And some pictures are coming up. Thanks so much, guys, and I will see you next time.